Welcome to Storytime by TCTS Ministries. Knocked Out. I actually lived with my dad, but visited with mom and younger brother Roderick every weekend. They lived on Wells Street in Rochester. Roderick was always complaining to me about a young man who lived nearby and was always trying to bully him. Normally, I would have told my brother to stop being so scary and start standing up for himself. But the problem was that Peawee was about 20 years old and my brother was only 12. One weekend while visiting with my mom and brother, I had just finished helping mom with some housework. I got tired, therefore went to my bedroom to get some rest. Right when I had gotten comfortable and was getting ready to fall asleep, my best friend Derek rushed into my bedroom without even knocking. He began informing me that Peawee had Roderick trapped on some woman's porch who lived just up the street from mom and my brother. I rushed up from the bed, shushing Derek so mom wouldn't hear what he was saying, as he then got quiet. Derek and I then sneaked out of the back door without mom ever knowing. We then took a shortcut up an alley, which led us right to the front of the woman's house, where Peawee was standing as he began daring Roderick to come off the porch. But Roderick was too afraid to move as I began reassuring him that he had nothing to worry about. Peawee then tried to intimidate me by getting up to my face and began shouting, "You want some too?" Though I was only 14 years old at the time, I knew I had to protect my brother, no matter how old or how big the other dude seemed to have been, besides the fact of also being a good street boxer. But it didn't matter to me because protecting my brother had become my only concern. Peawee made one fatal mistake when he tried to swing on me. He should have knocked me out. His inability to have maintained a shred of hope was completely destroyed when I then dazed him with a quick 2-3 blow to the face, sending him stumbling backwards onto the ground next to one of his teeth that fell out of his mouth. I then jumped on top of him and began punching him repeatedly to the face until he stopped moving, when I then looked up and realized Peewee's sister running down the street toward us, screaming and crying. I then hopped up off him as she rushed to his side trying to get him to respond. Meanwhile, I began motioning for my brother to come off the porch. He obeyed as him and Derek then began following me back towards home. Later that night, when Derek had left, I sat on my bed thinking about that day, how others had given me props for standing up for my brother and for beating the daylights out of Peawee. But I just didn't feel too good about what I did. All I knew was I needed to somehow apologize to him. After I prayed to God for his forgiveness, I began writing a short letter of an apology to Peawee and planned to go to his home in the morning to give the letter to him, hoping he'd agree to a genuine truce between us. I folded the letter and put it on my dresser before then going straight to bed. Early the next morning, I knelt down by my bedside and prayed that God would soften Peewee's heart, that he would accept my apology. I ended my 20-minute prayer asking God for his protection over my life. I rose slowly to my feet and began moving slowly over to the dresser before then retrieving the letter as I began staring at it for a moment. I was very nervous as I then slid the letter into one of my front pockets, thinking about the possibility of Peawee not accepting my apology, possibly paving the way for another round of a nasty brawl between us, in which I was hoping to avoid. I was finally at his home as I nervously stood there at his front door, debating within myself whether if I should give the letter to him by hand or just leave it in the mailbox. I pulled the letter from my pocket when his sister then opened the door unexpectedly. She became startled when she saw me standing there as she began wondering what I was doing on her property. When I told her I meant no harm and just wanted to apologize to Peawee for what happened the other day, she then softened and politely said that he wasn't there at the moment. I handed the letter to her and asked if she could give it to him when he had gotten back in. She agreed as we shared slight smiles before I then turned and walked away. Though I was in the right for trying to protect my brother, I didn't feel right about how the situation was handled. I could have been fine with how everything turned out and just left everything as was without remorse. Therefore, I simply walked away with a heart full of pride. But thanks be unto God for giving me a humble heart, even in the face of my own ego.